Foam rolling the calf. Okay, it's pretty straightforward as far as what we're doing here. It can be a little awkward though when you first do it. So you can see Janelle's doing, first of all, she's got one leg crossed over the other. This allows her to actually take the top leg and press down, which will create a little bit more pressure onto that foam roller. And then you kind of have to put the hands behind you, maybe lift the butt a little bit and kind of walk yourself up and down a little bit. What we're trying to do basically is go all the way down towards the ankle, all the way up towards the back of the knee. When you find a knotted up spot, you're just going to kind of work it, dig into it. If you find, a lot of people have really tight, very sensitive calves, what you can go ahead and do is take this top leg off, okay, and just be real gentle and maybe just ride up and down a little bit. You could bend this leg, and that could help you lift the body up if you have a difficult time, you lack maybe some of the arm strength or core strength to do this, and we can go ahead and just work that calf into the foam roller, digging in, trying to get those knots out and get the calves warmed up so we can prevent any kind of pulls or injuries in the exercise program. So there you have it, foam rolling the calf. Foam rolling the hamstring. Much like the calf, this can be a little bit awkward at first when you first do, especially if you lack some of the upper body and the core strength. But essentially what we're doing is we're going from behind the knee right up to the glute. We'll foam roll the glute separately, but what we're doing is just riding up and down. A couple ways to do this as far as pressure. Janelle, like I said, she's lifting her butt up. She's kind of walking her way. You can see it does take a little bit of arm strength to hold herself up. Now, if she wants to make this a little bit more intense, she'll go ahead and cross one leg over the other, much like with the calf, and just, again, riding up and down, working that muscle. Again, if you feel like with any foam rolling exercise, you find a really big knot or kind of what we call a speed bump, you want to kind of go back and forth over that speed bump. With this one, you can also kind of rock a little bit side to side. You're just trying to hit that hamstring from a variety of different angles. It's a larger muscle. We want to kind of dig in and get all aspects of it. Find the knot and just get after it. That's foam rolling the hamstring. The supine pelvic tilt. Okay, supine simply means lying on our back. What we want Janelle doing here, this is kind of the next step after some supine breathing. So let's start with that. First of all, she's just laying, like I said, on her back, very relaxed. Again, we're looking for that 360-degree breathing pattern. So breathing, belly breathing. In for about a 3-second inhale, out for about a 6-second exhale. So just getting very, very relaxed in our breathing here. Now what we're gonna go ahead and do is we wanna create some movement in that pelvis. A lot of people get really locked up here in the low back and the pelvis. They don't have a whole lot of movement there. Okay, so what we wanna do is create some movement in some mobility in that pelvis. It's going to help us with a lot of things from core control to hamstring flexibility, just good movement quality, and so many things. So what we're going to do is as she's breathing, we're going to go ahead and purposely, you can see the belly rise, and hopefully you can see that. If I put my hand here, when the belly comes up, we're purposely creating an arch right here, okay? And what that's going to do is you can imagine it's going to take her pelvis and it's going to tilt it anteriorly, okay? So we're creating this purposeful anterior tilt, creating movement in that pelvis. Then on the exhale, she's going to go ahead and reverse that action and create a posterior tilt, kind of like tucking her tail, okay? Flattening and pushing that lower back into the ground. You should feel that contraction in your abs as well. So from a vertical standpoint, what she's doing is she's creating this anterior tilt and then posterior tilt. Anterior and posterior. And what we're trying to do is just have the movement centered right here in that pelvis. So she's laying on her back, she's got no help from the upper body, no help from the lower body. We should be looking for compensation. We should be making sure that the legs aren't coming up, the feet aren't turning out. We want all the action right here in the center, working that pelvis, creating some mobility in that area there, as well as just patterning out that breathing. There we go. Getting nice control. Big 3-second inhale. You can see the belly rising. We're getting a nice arch in here. We're getting that anterior pelvic tilt. 6-second exhale. So getting really good control over that pelvis becomes very important exercises. Pretty much any lower body exercise you can think of, with squats, deadlifts, lunges, having good pelvis control so that we are targeting the muscle we want to work. We're protecting the lower back, locking in the core. It's just going to create great movement quality, great strength, great stability through that core. There you have it. That's the supine pelvic tilt. We're going to do a band leg lowering here. The idea here is we're going to use a band. You can also, if you don't have a band available, you can do this with a wall. It works really, really well. So what Janelle's going to do is she's going to go ahead and just strap the band over the middle of her foot. And the reason I like the band is because depending on flexibility levels, you are just going to pull the leg as high as it will go, making sure that the knee is locked out and straight, keeping everything locked in. The band is going to go ahead and really allow us to hold that foot up in the position that's best for us versus if I'm forcing someone to be more vertical than they can be with a wall. So if you don't have great hamstring flexibility, this is a great place to start. What we're going to do is we're going to take the other leg and we're going to go ahead and bring that up. Okay, I'm just going to kind of hold it here for right now. And what we want to do is we want to think of these feet like they're train tracks. They're in line. They're parallel to one another. We're going to be looking for that, looking for compensation. Is the leg shooting out to the side? And what she's going to do is she's going to work her breathing pattern. She's going to take a nice big 3-second inhale, and then on the exhale for 6 seconds, she's going to go ahead and lower that leg. While she's doing that, I'm going to let her work that pattern. 3 in on the way up, and 6 out on the way down. She really wants to control the breathing and control what's happening down here in the lower back. What she's trying to do is maintain connection of the lower back to the ground. So her abs are really going to be kicking in right now, which is going to be important for this movement pattern. A lot of times folks who have difficulty doing this movement pattern, it's not the hamstring flexibility, it's their abs aren't firing. So this combination, by pushing her lower back into the ground, working her breathing pattern as she does this, going to get those abs firing, get some coordination between the core and the lower body. We're stretching this hamstring, we're getting some movement in this hip, we're working the breathing. A lot of great stuff going on here. This is band leg lowering. Quadruped pelvic tilt. So first thing we do is get Janelle into the quadruped position, basically on her hands and knees, tabletop, some people call this. We want to make sure that the hips are directly over the knees and the shoulder directly over the hands, so we're in a good position. We got a nice neutral spine here. Now with pelvic tilts, we're only working the lower portion. With cat-cow, a different exercise, we're doing a lot in the thoracic. So we're going to keep this as neutral as we can. From a head position standpoint, we don't want our head hanging down, so if she just lets it drop, just go ahead and kind of show a bad position. We don't want that head hanging. We want neutral spine, so think about pulling the head back as if there was a wall there, so she's not cranked up either. Okay, it's neutral. So if I had a pole here, I got tailbone between the shoulder blades and then to the head, it's nice and straight. Now while maintaining that neutral position, she's going to be working pelvic movement, okay? And we're looking to kind of tuck the tail in, if you will, and then posterior or anterior tilt the hips. So anterior here, and then posterior tilt here. And we're just getting some movement, again, in those hips, okay, or in that pelvis. Different positions that we can do this in: lying on the back, lying on the stomach. The quadruped position, as you move up off the floor, this becomes more challenging, requires more control because you don't have assistance from the floor to block out other areas. So it becomes challenging not to use any of the upper back here. So we're just looking for a good pattern, breathing pattern, 3-second inhale, 6-second exhale, and just getting some nice movement once again in that pelvis, but not getting any help from the lower body or the upper body, locking everything out and focusing on one area at a time. Seems pretty simple, but actually for many people, and if we're prescribing this exercise for you, probably an area of difficulty. So practice this one, really focus on keeping the spine neutral and just working at the hips.